given how hard it is to mount anything politically in New Zealand that actually tackles the gross parameters of material inequality. For example, just look at how the debate on capital gains went down, where despite a policy consensus that New Zealand should have one, and the fact that New Zealand's almost the only OECD country not to have one, the wall of opposition was fulsome and unrelenting. Would it make more sense to try to ensure that every New Zealander enjoys a basic, acceptable standard of living and leave that as an achievable social policy goal, rather than trying to take on the much harder task of addressing material inequality?
Really interesting question there. I guess on a sort of limited pragmatic note, I would say first that I don't think the capital gains tax debate was always destined to end the way it did. Although, yes, there were very powerful forces arrayed against it. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that Labour had it as a policy up until 2014. Then Andrew Little scrapped it, well, sort of put it on the back burner. Then when Ardern became leader just before the 27 election, she brought it back in, but wasn't really prepared to defend it. So then suddenly it came under a whole lot of criticism and said, oh, we'll put it to a tax working group. And then, of course, they were unable to defend their own idea for 18 months while the working group deliberated, and then they'd lost the debate. Whereas I think a Labour Party that had been organised and consistent and had been willing to front foot the debate about capital gains tax, right throughout for 7 or 8 years consistently, I think could have got it across the line, because there was always about 30 to 40% of people, according to the polling, who were willing to be convinced. So that would be my first point. My second point would be, I understand where you're coming from, and in a way, it seems like the most urgent task is to raise the bottom rather than to constrain the top. But the problem is you can't really separate them, because why do we not have a system that guarantees a decent standard of living to everyone who's poor? Well, I think it's because ultimately we have a value system, that says that people who are poor are somehow less worthy than others, and people who are rich are more worthy. And there's all these connections. I mean, why are wages so low? It's partly because so much of corporate income is now going to the owners of businesses rather than wage and salary owners. You can't understand poverty without understanding affluence. And just at a very fundamental level, to do all the things you want to see done, I suspect all of which I would agree with, you need a lot more tax revenue. And it is absolutely clear from talking to people inside the beehive that the reason they haven't done more on benefits, for instance, at the moment has not been public opinion, it's that they just don't have the money. So actually, the failure to tackle the top end is what stops you from making progress at the bottom end.